Welcome to Say There's Ability, a podcast to educate and inform you about disability employment issues. My name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert.
Top 10 universal design elements. That's what we're talking about on today's Save As Ability. Great to be with you. David D'Arcangelo, another episode here. Please help us continue to grow the channel. If you could like, subscribe, comment, share. That really helps us keep great content flowing for you. So we're getting right into it with the top 10 universal design elements. And so basically what I've done is I've kind of curated my own list here. Of course, there's not really top 10, but I've tried to take 10 of the most, I guess, like publicly visible design elements that people can resonate with, okay? Both people with and without disabilities. Because the great thing about when you use universal design principles is it benefits everybody. It benefits, yes, the people with disabilities. It helps accommodate them or modify something so that they can use it fully, but it also benefits society as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So first, just a little bit about universal design. So universal design means designing products, spaces, systems so that they're usable for everyone, regardless of their ability or, other factors, okay? So now we often talk about accessibility, and accessibility is a big part of it, but it also speaks to usability. So there's something that can be very usable, but not accessible, and there's something that can be very accessible, but not necessarily very usable. So universal design really tries to bring those two concepts together and make something that is both highly usable, highly accessible, and really then works for everybody. And there's some good examples. Let me first start with just a broad example of the chocolate chip cookie, okay? Before we get to the top 10 list here, all right? So think of a chocolate chip cookie. There are a lot of different ways to make a chocolate chip cookie. But of course, the way that most people, understand and resonate with, and probably the best way to do it, is you take the batter, you put in the chips, you put in the butter, you mix it all around, you put it in the oven. It comes out all baked in, delicious, and great. Well, too often, what we've seen is a sugar cookie get baked, and then people with disabilities say, wait a minute, where's my chocolate chip cookie? And then they usually have a hard time, and then somebody maybe will throw them a couple of chocolate chips on top and say, well, there you go, that's your chocolate chip cookie. It's not really the same experience when it's done after the fact like that. So think of universal design as like a baked in thing where it's conceived to be able to work for everybody, designed that way, and that really gives you the best experience. All right. So again, I've tried to curate these, and these are like the top 10, I guess we'd say publicly visible universal design elements. Okay. And I've tried to cover all of the different prevalence types of people with disabilities and all the different use case scenarios. And let's start with number one. And I think really the biggest improvement that we've seen, and still have a ways to go, by the way, but we definitely have seen improvement, and that is curb cuts, or otherwise known as sidewalk ramps to many. And that's really allowing people with a mobility disability to be able to get on and off a sidewalk. I mean, what is more needed accessibility wise for somebody with a mobility? If you're in a wheelchair or a power chair, or, you need to be able to overcome that curb, because it can be a real barrier there. So that's really like probably the first thing I would say, because it's so pervasive. It's everywhere in America. And yeah, it was originally designed for wheelchair access, but it's widely used by parents with strollers and, delivery workers bringing their wheeler to deliver packages to people. So you see that when universal design is done well, yeah, it's going to help the person with a disability, but it's also going to help everybody as well. So I think a curb cut is a great example. All right, number two, automatic door openers. We kind of take it for granted, but really those were made to offer hands-free access for people. Like, if you're in a wheelchair, try to open a door. It's very difficult to do. So the automatic doors, you push the button, they open up. And again, now think of everybody that provides assistance to, shoppers and, again, mothers pushing strollers or people leaving the supermarket or whatever the case may be. Automatic doors is number one. Number two for me, because it's so prevalent throughout society. Number three, a big switch that we've seen over the past several decades, and that is lever activated door handles. So traditionally, doors were knobs. There were a lot of knobs, and those can be very difficult to grip for a lot of different prevalence types of people with disabilities. So now with lever style door openers, it's really much easier to use than knobs, and really helps people with limited hand strength or dexterity issues, or even children and older adults. So, all right, number 4, I'm going to say elevators, and then a little addendum to that: audible floor announcements, braille and tactile, and things like that. So both the elevator itself, which is in effect a lift, right? A chair lift to be able to take people up. How would you have any of these big buildings without an elevator, right? That's a universally devised transportation mode that we kind of take for granted, but I wouldn't want to leave it out, okay? And maybe you could also throw in there escalators as well, but really, obviously, it provides accessibility for people with low vision, people with mobility, you can go down the list of everybody it helps, including people without disabilities, by the way. So you can see when universal design is done well, really the rising tide lifts all ships. All right, number 5, something that's not necessarily like a thing, but it's a feature, I guess. And that is, much of the building codes and the Architectural Access Board and, ADA regulations and all of that, wider hallways and wider doorways. It may sound simple, but previously when doorways were narrow, go try to get a power chair in there, or go try to get, some other type of assistive device that you needed to be able to make it through that doorway. It was very difficult. So now wider hallways, wider doorways being designed into our public spaces really benefit people with disabilities and everybody. It makes it for a better environment. All right, number 6, we're going with visual and tactile signage. Signage has really come a long way. Like now the contrast is much better, high contrast signs. Braille and tactile for blind and low vision has really gotten much better. There's now wayfinding, so I put that in here as well. It's kind of related to another one of our things. So that would be number 6. Number 7 is specifically related to accessible restrooms. So the restrooms of decades ago were not very accessible at all. Now, modern restrooms are being designed with stalls that can accommodate larger mobility devices, with lower sinks, with grab bars, and things that can aid people with mobility disabilities to be able to maneuver around. Much better the accessibility in restrooms that we've seen in the past couple of decades. Number 8, closed captioning and I would say assistive technology in the public realm. And so that's things like, in airports and gyms and restaurants and, public address systems, transit systems, all those types of places. Now, the manner with which the closed captioning is done is much better. It's much more usable. It's much more, it's universally designed so you can get the information out to both people with and without disabilities, by the way. It's a better experience for both. All right, number 9. I'm going with low floor public transit buses / like better transit accessibility. So many subway stations, when they were conceived, 100 years ago, especially in the Northeast around here, they weren't built for wheelchairs and things like that. So now when the station needs to be done over, it's being built in with much better accessibility, with ramps and, elevators and escalators and, low floor vehicles that you can actually get onto and off of easily, or more easily if you're a person with a mobility device, like a wheelchair or something, or elders or seniors that have difficulty climbing a lot of stairs. So that's a good thing. Helps bring down transportation barriers. And then number 10, what I'm going with is adjustable height counters and service windows. And we still have a ways to go here, but I think now a lot of companies that have gotten savvy to this fact have seen an increase in customers. There's some data out there that I'll put in the links that will show you that a lot of retailers have looked at this and they've realized that, wait a minute, if we add these adjustable things, we'll actually gain market share. We'll actually gain these customers. Our customers will come seek us out because they know we have that feature. That's a good thing. So adjustable height counters and and service windows. Really, they can help a lot of people with disabilities and provide a better experience for people without disabilities as well. So each of these elements is a demonstration of universal design in action. And, it covers the whole spectrum from hearing and seeing to mobility, independent living. All of those types of things are covered here. It's rooted in law. So, the ADA calls for this, various sections of regulation, 508, the Rehab Act, Fair Housing. So there's laws that back this stuff up. And like the Universal Building Code has come up. In Massachusetts, there's an Architectural Barriers Access Code. And so these universal design principles really have helped raise the floor, if you will. We still want to continue to raise the ceiling. Not telling you everything's great. There's still a lot of accessibility challenges out there. But I think we're going in the right direction. And if we continue to employ universal design principles, we'll all be better off for it. So that was my top 10 list. I hope you got something out of this episode. Let us know in the comments. We're trying our best for you. It's David D'Arcangelo, Say Visibility. I hope you have a great day.
For more information about disability employment issues, please visit our website, disabilityemploymentsolutions.com. The Save As Ability podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel at Disability Policy Expert, or wherever you stream your podcasts. Subscribe, stream, rate, and review our shows. Your ratings and reviews help our show reach new audiences. Produced by Pod Pro Entertainment. Save As Ability lives within a network of podcasts located at podproentertainment.com. #TheNewRadio. Again, my name is David D'Arcangelo, and I'm your disability policy expert. Until next time, thank you. I hope you have a great day.